Do you want to hear from an entrepreneur who has built a $140 million company? I mean, he did this from scratch. He scaled it to $1 million a month in just 4 months. But he talked about how he walked away from all of that and became the CEO of Experian. His name is Keala, and he is here because he wants to eliminate your fears, your imposter syndrome, your self sabotage. He wants to get to the root of that and rip it out. Okay. He is amazing. You are going to love this. This is a whole conversation on neuroscience-backed breakthroughs, rewiring your identity, doing things from the inside out. Like if you're feeling stuck, what you do to get it right. I mean, this was such a good freaking conversation. You're going to love this episode. Here we go.
What up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and it's just straight talk, no sugar added. So I am joined by somebody I've been following for some time, and I went to go look at his name on my emails, and I didn't realize that I've been following him since like 2023 or 2024. His name is Keala Kanae, and he is a transformational expert, right? He built a $140 million company from scratch, scaled it to about $1 million a month, and in just about 4 months. Yeah, Nina been trying to do that, okay? Yeah, so then he kind of walked away because he could do that, right? Not to retire, but he wanted to go deeper. So as the CEO of Experian, he now helps high performers, I should say, really eliminate that fear and that imposter syndrome and that self sabotage that we all really have. But he tries to help you eliminate that from the root. Right. We were just talking a little bit right before we came on to talk to you guys. And I was saying that it is important to pull things up because a lot of times we get hyped up over something that we're doing, whether it's a live or a thing we went to, or a performance. But at the end of the day, if you don't get to the root, that will grow again. So if you're feeling stuck, I want you to really tune in because this is going to hit differently. So, Keala, welcome to Street Talk. How are you?
I'm great, Neena. Thank you so much for having me. And I really, right before we dive in, I just want to, take a moment to encourage your listeners to leave you a review on wherever it is that they're listening. I've been listening to several episodes now after my team booked this with me, and I left you a review this morning on Apple
Thank
Podcasts. And
you.
I just, I don't know that people realize like how much work goes into a podcast and how challenging it can be. So, and those
Mhm.
reviews matter. So,
They
wherever you're
really
listening in,
do.
yeah, wherever you're listening in, drop a quick review if you can take the time.
I
But thanks for
really
having me.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for saying that, and thank you because I'm looking at like my podcast coach calls me. He's like, "Oh, you got 140,000 views on YouTube, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Where everybody? Why aren't they clicking subscribe? That just pisses me off." Like, guys, and that's my fault, right? I don't do call to action. I always forget to do the call to action. Like, just press to subscribe, go ahead
I
and
got you.
review. Yeah, same. Thank you for getting me. So, Kel, tell us a little bit about you because, it is not a small thing to build a company from scratch to $140 million. That's not a small thing, as you know, right? So, I
Mhm.
want to know a little bit more about you because I want to know where did that determination come from? Was that something that you grew up with? Like, talk to me. Who are you? Who are you, dude?
Yeah. So, as we mentioned, right, like we work right now, we work with entrepreneurs, high achievers, folks with big goals, big dreams, big aspirations that really they're up to something in their life. They want to play full out, but for whatever reason, they keep getting in their own way, whether that's
Mm,
procrastination, self doubt, imposter syndrome, and so on. Typically, they've read the self help books, they've done the big guru seminars, and they're into the thinking positive and the morning routines, but for whatever reason they're still stuck and they know that they have more to give. So what we do is we help them kind of break free from those self-sabotaging, self-defeating behaviors, without hocus pocus, without woo woo. We use science-backed, research-based approaches to that, ultimately under the umbrella of what we call integrative neuroconditioning. It's 100%
yeah, I
guaranteed
love
to
it.
work.
Mhm.
um, and so that they can really step into being the leader that they're capable of being in their life, right? Land the deal, get the big clients, these sort of things. Now, obviously, though, I didn't start there, right? I mean, let's rewind back a few years, and I had been a wannabe entrepreneur for about 10 years, tried lots of things. Nothing was really working out for me. And I had this life-changing, breakthrough in 2010. I had come home from a barbecue with some friends of mine, and I walked in. At the time, I lived with some roommates, and I walked into my bedroom that evening, and sitting on the bed was a stack of photographs. And I remember like thinking to myself, like, what is that? And I
Mm.
walk up to this stack of photographs and I pick it up, and every photograph was ripped in half. And there was about a dozen of these photos. And I'm just flipping through these, like, what is going on? And at the bottom of it was a note from my girlfriend of 4.5 years. And it said, "Picture me out of your life." Uh,
Oh,
and
damn.
that's savage, savage.
Right?
Okay.
For
Um,
real.
especially after 4.5 years, you'd think maybe you'd get a phone call or something. But yeah, that's how, she ended the relationship that evening. And at first I thought like, oh, of course she's upset, we'll probably figure it out. Like we'll talk eventually, and I was hopeful that we would work things out. And, I don't want to spoil the story, but we'll get there to what actually ends up happening. But fast forward 3 weeks later, I've moved out of that house with the roommates. I couldn't afford the rent anymore. I'm back in my mom's spare bedroom in a 1,000 square foot apartment. Um, she hasn't talked to me. She won't answer phone calls. She won't answer text messages. I'm really starting to realize, like, man, is it really over? And there's this afternoon where I'm just pacing up and down the hallway in my mom's little tiny apartment. I can remember what I was wearing. I can remember where I'm standing when
Hmm.
this life-changing question hits me. And the question was, what if it's me? And not in the sense of like, what if it's me that caused this breakup, but what if it's me that is the reason that I'm not getting what I want in life? Because at the time I was like
Mm.
really assessing all the areas in my life where I was unhappy, unfulfilled, unsuccessful, all of my failures, all of my shortcomings. And finally, it just hit me that, like, wait, the only thing that all these things have in common is me,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Um, and for whatever reason, like that had never occurred to me before. I mean, I grew up in an environment where it was just so commonplace to like blame everything else out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I called up a friend of mine, and he had been talking to me about this seminar that he had attended. He's like, man, there's like all these like really successful people, like all these millionaires kept telling me about it. So I finally attended, and da 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 da. And I had noticed that his life had like taken on a whole new trajectory after that class. So I called him up and I was like, hey man, this is what I'm going through right now. Tiani's broken up with me, yada yada. Give him the whole story, and he's like, man, you're in the perfect place. Like you're in for a hell of a ride. And so fast forward a couple weeks later, I was sitting in a classroom, much like one of the classes that we do today. And I just knew by the second day of that class, like my whole life is going to be different. Like there's
That's
just
so
no way that
awesome.
I walk out of here like the same person. And that began my personal development journey. So from there, I really fell in love with all things, you know, axiology, teleology, ontology, epistemology, like, philosophies, the sciences,
Yeah.
the neurology, the biology, this sort of thing, and really wanting to understand the human brain and how we work and how we operate, and how, like, what I discovered, one of the things that I discovered in that class is that success is not some, ethereal, esoteric thing. There's a science to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that any one of us dedicated to that can create that. And so I became fascinated by that. Eventually I take what I'm learning, I launch my own business in I get into affiliate marketing in 2012, the end of 2012. From 2012 to 2015, I make my first $1 million as an affiliate marketer. Obviously left the coffee shop and all that. That kind of organically turned into a coaching business. This is long before like everybody was a coach.
Right.
And so it was in 2016, we launched a coaching business, teaching people affiliate marketing. We scaled that from zero to $1 million a month in 4 months, doing just shy of $20 million our first year. The rest is kind of history from there. We eventually scaled that to over 140 million in sales. And then I exited that last year to return to my first love. My first love
Yeah.
is just,
Yeah.
helping people, just reveal just unveil the greatest parts of themselves and bring that to life. I get like way more
Mm-hmm.
fulfillment from that. So that's what we're dedicated to today.
You probably worked a lot, really hard too on the affiliate marketing because, not a large percentage of people in affiliate marketing make it to $140 million, right? Am I right by saying that? Because I feel like
Oh
people
yeah.
struggle with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's not, yeah. So you have to have the right mindset to begin with, to even get into that and to build it to that size, right? Were you scared, by the way, when you decided my ass is going to walk away from $140 million business? Were you scared?
Okay, I'll share this with you. So when so I exited that in October of last year, and I stepped into the CEO role at Inspirian um November 1st, 2024. And I'll get like as vulnerable as you are willing to get, Nina.
I'll
Um
go there. I'll go there with
and
you.
I immediately, yes, I was very scared. Okay,
I would
so
have been. Hell yeah.
so yeah, so I walk, I've been doing this thing for what, since 20 late, we launched at the end, like right after Thanksgiving 2016. So, 8 years or so of my life I'd been
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to that. It's like what I knew best. Um and there's a lot of wisdom in what I'm about to share, and it's stuff that we teach in like more of our advanced classes than in our introductory classes. But going into that transition, like when I'm thinking about going into that transition, exiting this thing that I've been doing for a long time that's not necessarily as fulfilling as it once was, and being able to like dedicate my life, like I really, at least in this very moment, I want to spend the rest of my life doing what I'm doing now. Like I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
build another
Mm-hmm.
business that I'm going to sell and all this sort of thing. So I'm like really excited about making this transition, and I'm seeing all of the upsides, none of the downsides, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing all of the benefits, really none of the drawbacks. And I'll circle back to why that's so important in a moment. When I finally make the transition into this role, man, does the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, like all
Yeah.
these things start to set in, and I start
Yeah.
wondering like, oh my god, can I really do this? Is it
Mm-hmm.
really going to work? Like I've never sold this kind of a product before. I've never advertised this before. I've never sold to this kind of customer avatar before. And one of the things that I want to be clear about here is like, when we say, I think that there's a lot of kind of BS in the personal development
Yeah.
arena in general. And so what I'm saying here for the listeners is, I am not at all going to sell you some fantasy that like you're ever going to completely overcome imposter syndrome, self-doubt, procrastination, these sorts of things. But instead that you're going to have tools that allow you, like as you're about to hear, that allow you to slice through it, and like, that weaponize you
Mm-hmm.
against those things when they show up. In fact, I hope for every person that they experience those things, for the rest of their life at some point or another, because it's the sign that you're growing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
sign that you're stepping into something new, right? Like at every
Mm-hmm.
level, there's another devil.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had many devils on the way to building $140 million company. And now I'm making this major life transition. And I had leveraged like all of my assets, my investment accounts, like both of my properties. I'd leveraged all of those to take out some capital, to fund the start of Inspirian. Every other business I did before this, I bootstrapped it, meaning, I
Mm.
funded it straight from sales,
Right.
right? We
Right.
sold something, we put that money back into the business and grew it. This is like a legacy play for me. So I'm using debt to fund it out of the gate. And um just being real with your listeners, like last year, this business that I was transitioning into, I had lost $2.4 million of what I had invested so far into the business.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm sitting there in November, Nina, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, can I really
What did
do
I
this?
do? Yeah.
What if I
Yeah.
don't figure out like the customer acquisition? What if I don't figure out how to get customers? What if I'm not able to sell this? Like on all these different things that are going through my mind. I'm realizing like, oh man, if I don't figure that out too, like they take both my properties, my
Right.
investment account. Like,
Right.
do I go back to
Right.
zero? Oh my God, am I going to end up living back with my mom in in her
The
1,000 square foot apartment? You know what I mean? Like,
I
oh no.
totally get that. Yeah, I get that. That's scary though, right? Because now you've gotten yourself accustomed to a different lifestyle. You worked really hard. You gotten yourself to that place, and so in 2008, me and my husband lost everything: our cars, our house, the whole thing. And so we went homeless, right? And that was really, really tough. And I still find myself there, like I had gotten into my career and I built six figures and all that kind of stuff. And I always have that trauma, right? That trauma that,
Mm.
where are the customers
Let's
coming?
talk about this. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Where's it coming from? What's going to happen? And so I love a lot of this neuro stuff. I geek out on this kind of stuff. This is the stuff I love because I feel like, if you have self-awareness, you can start to work on what it is you need to work on. And so I'll ask myself, okay,
For
90
sure.
seconds, Neena, how do you feel about money? Let's go. 90 seconds. Let's go. What do we got? And then I try to take the positive and the negative of that, list that I just wrote out. What is the positive of feeling afraid? What is the positive of doing this? That kind of thing.
Oh my God,
But
so
I
much wisdom in that. Let's
thank
keep going,
you.
keep going, keep going.
Yeah. So so I'm saying that I love that you said a couple things. So one of the things you said is, yeah, I went into something new and it was scary and I was afraid of like what this now meant. And I want people to hear that because a lot of the people who listen to my show are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, coaches. That's my audience. And I feel like they think that once you've reached whatever arrive means, that they think that if they've reached 140 million, they have arrived. And you said, I wasn't fulfilled that much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I caught that. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
see, this is what we keep doing. There is no arrival, y'all. You know what I'm saying? There is just a better improvement to the next day and then the next day and then the next day. To me, there's no arrival. Do you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with you. That's I really, I've only been on here 10 minutes, and I could tell like we are soul companions, Neena. Okay, so because there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying, so and there's a lot that I could unpack here. So one of the big, I think, in the world of personal development and in the world of self mastery and these sort of things, there's this perpetual lie, I'll call it,
Mm-hmm.
that if you just get it right, and this is something if this is something that really permeates our entire society. I really think that this is like the greatest human illusion, that there's this general narrative in society that in order for us to be worthy or successful or
Yes.
enlightened,
Yes.
what it means is that we're going to eventually reach this place where we're always kind, never cruel, always happy, never sad, always courageous, never fearful, always peaceful, never wrathful, always honest, never dishonest,
Right.
always positive, never negative. And the reality is, and I hope that when somebody really gets this, it's one of the most freeing things that you can possibly understand. The reality is that there is, in 10,000 years of written human history, find me one person, just
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
who's ever been able to live a one-sided life.
Right.
You'll
Right.
find none, right? So, and the reason is that it would defy the laws of physics. So
Right.
through physics, we can observe that in any closed system, which the universe is a closed system, there is ultimately a balance. So
Yes. I
equanimity,
was just going to
equilibrium,
say that. Yes.
homeostasis, something
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
these, we all there always ends up being some form of a balance that's achieved. So I would call this like almost like the language of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That's why earlier I was saying like and I know this stuff and I use this stuff and I can walk people through like how I worked through this to be where I'm at today. Because I mean, right now, we're on an upswing in Inspirian, and we're crushing some of the industry numbers. We're doing stuff that's never been done before, and this is just 6-7 months ago. I was losing my mind, right?
Right.
So um but here's the wisdom of what I was sharing earlier. When I was saying like, going into the transition, I was elated, right? I saw all of the upsides, none of the downsides, all of the benefits, none of the drawbacks. So I saw the upsides of making this transition, but not the downsides. But because everything in the universe eventually finds equanimity, when I make the transition, I start to see the other side of this transition. Because our minds will come back into balance. Notice that like when we fall in love with somebody, we go through
Yes.
the infatuation stage,
Yes.
right? And we're like, oh my God, they finished my sentences. Like we're a perfect match made in heaven. And then you move in with them. And like a year later, you're like, who the hell did I marry? Right? Because your mind has to find the other side. It's going to reach its equanimity.
Yeah.
And so when I made the transition, then I start seeing the other side, like, oh, the risk, the burden, the weight that I'm carrying, the jobs that I'm responsible for, the complexity of building something new and all these sorts of things. But thankfully, I have the wisdom of knowing that that's what I'm experiencing. I
Yeah.
have the tools to work through that. And it's why, we are where we are today, which is a stark contrast to where we were then in November. But and sorry, I do go on a little bit of I can be kind of
I love
verbose,
it.
Nina.
No,
I'm gonna
go
let you
for
know
it.
up front. But what your to your question about the fulfillment and like, is there ever like, is there is no destination. There's only a journey,
Yeah.
you know? And I used to tell our customers this in my previous company, like those who love the destination, like when you fall in love, I mean, those who fall in love with the journey always outperform those who are infatuated with the destination,
Yeah.
right? Like the one who loves walking always walks further than the one who loves the destination. And I explain it, I think of it like this. When you learn to fall in love with the journey that you're on, and the journey in and of itself becomes the reward, every day you wake up, you've created your own version of heaven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when we are infatuated with the destination and that we think that happiness is at some exit ramp that we're going to find at some point, then every day that you wake up and you're not at that destination, you've created your own
Yes.
special form of hell, you know?
Yes, yes. And I think that that is something we all go through, right? Because you're right. I think once we start our own business, we have all this infatuation, like that first love. And I love the journey, even the bad, even what we consider bad, whatever you want to label it, right?
Mhm.
Because when we're struggling financially or struggling, things happen, whatever, I'm like, ooh, okay, I cannot wait to see how this plays out. This is
Mhm.
fun. This is a roller coaster. This is exciting. My husband's like, hell no, it's not. I can't stand this. But I'm like, heck yeah, this is fun. Let's go. Buckle in, buddy. We got this. So, because to me, it's like, what are we doing if we're not experiencing life? I think life is a gift. And so we should be experiencing it, even the tears, even the hard part, even the stuff you're worried about. I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think all of that needs to be brought into this experience. So I love that. And I was thinking as you're talking too, like your level has changed too, right? Because like when you said the equilibrium and the balance, and when you were talking about them, thinking, yeah, but your equilibrium and your balance has also risen as you've risen as an
For
entrepreneur.
sure.
you know so you
For sure.
weren't I don't think you would have allowed for yourself to drop all the way down like you were in the 1,000-foot apartment in that room. You know what I mean? Like there would have, I think there's too much in you now to let that happen. Does that make sense?
Total sense. Man, you are masterful at life. I love that you like you talked about embracing the challenges, and there's so much wisdom in that, because again, like most people want to have one side without the other. They want the triumph
Yeah.
without the challenge, but the challenge is what makes something triumphant,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think the real mastery of life is embracing both wins and losses with equal indifference, meaning not being
Mm.
attached to the upsides or the
Mhm.
downsides, but understanding that
Mhm.
both serve and that you're just on a mission, right?
Yes.
Because we can get so wrapped up in the volatility of life. And so I'll share this with you because I think this helps the audience kind of realize like how this becomes a practical application. Okay. So as I'm making this transition, November and December of last year, uh, obviously, you know, I'm going through it a bit. I'm in it, and so I reach out to a friend of mine. She actually co-facilitates some of our advanced classes, and I was like, "Hey, can I do a couple coaching sessions with you?" She's like, "Absolutely." So we jump on a call, and I tell her what's going on. First question she asked me: "So how has losing $2.4 million this year served you?" And I'm
Mhm.
like,
Oh man.
oh
Yes.
man.
Yes.
And the more polarized we are,
Yes.
like the more that we're attached to one side, the harder it is to see the other side. But
Yes.
when we see the other side and bring the mind to balance, that's where we unlock, like, there's a lot of rhetoric about intuition and this stuff in like the world of self mastery and personal development. But that's where you really unlock your intuition, is when you
Mhm.
depolarize the mind and you can approach life from a balanced perception. So anyway, so she asked me, how is losing $2.4 million this year a benefit? And I was like, God, it took me a while to think about it. And I start, and then all of a sudden I start rattling it off. And I'm like, well, actually, we've really had to dig into the financials and get clear about like what is absolutely necessary and what's fat. We've cut a lot of unnecessary expenses. I
Mhm.
realized like a few months ago that we were carrying too much bloat on the labor side. So, we had to let go of a few roles that I thought that we needed, but we obviously weren't prepared for, yada, yada. And I'm going through all these different things ways in which we've refined and streamlined the business. And she goes, and well, so what's the benefit of that? And I was like, well, it means that right out of the gate, I'm actually building a stronger business, like with a
Yeah.
stronger
A
financial structure.
foundation. Yeah.
Yes, I'm
I
not going to
love that.
build an empire on quicksand, is what
Mhm.
I said to
Mhm.
her.
Mhm.
This prevents me from building an empire on quicksand, which is something that I did in my previous company. Like my first company, we grew so quick, that I went through an experience where like I had a CFO who had taken out $1 million loan in my name without me knowing about it and all kinds of
Oof.
stuff.
Mhm.
So, um, so I really started to see how this was like serving us. And then she asked me, because I had mentioned that like I have this fear running in the back of my mind about like, what if I end up like going back to broke where I came from?
What if you do?
And yeah, and she goes, and she goes, so what was the benefit of living in your mom's spare bedroom,
Right. Right.
with a 500 credit score? And I was like, well, actually, it allowed me to save a bunch of money that I would have been
Yeah.
spending on rent.
Yeah.
And, because obviously I didn't have to pay her the kind of rent that I would pay outside. So I was like, I
Yeah.
was able to invest in my education. I was able to buy the courses that made me an affiliate marketer. I lived really close to where I worked at the coffee shop at the time. So I didn't need a car. I was able to walk, like all these different ways that I was able to spend money and stay focused on the
Yeah.
thing that I really want to do. And she's like, yeah, so, can you see that, like, can you see, the divine intelligence of the universe like unfolding in your life? And I was like, absolutely.
Yeah. So good.
And so I kind of just got to this place of in that conversation, I got to this place of, and I think that this is really, you know, where wisdom really lands is like, if I had it all to do, like, if I had it all to do over again, I wouldn't change a thing. Like I would still lose
Yeah.
the $2.4 million
Yeah.
last year,
Yeah.
because I can see how that made us who we're becoming today, how it
100%.
served us.
Yeah.
And so I'm not carrying these old resentments around, and those resentments are what bog us down. That like that quote unquote trauma that you talked about, like that you went through in 2008, and
Mhm.
the way that which I would assume that to some degree or another, you may have labeled yourself as like a failure when that happened or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Like I labeled
100%.
myself as a failure living in my mom's spare
100%.
bedroom,
Yeah.
right? But that trauma, that old resentment, that old story that I'm holding on to is now has a hold of me versus me having a hold of it. And that's
Yes.
why it's coming up in my life.
Mhm. Mhm.
So anyway,
We
I
got
could
to
keep
walk
going down
through it.
this rabbit hole. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to walk
we
through
got
it.
to walk through it. Like, like my husband was having some issues medically and was like, "Oh, he was really like worked up because he's like, they took some cancer blood work and stuff like that." And he for like days and I'm like, "Okay, so what if you have cancer? What
Mm,
happens? What
mhm,
what's going to happen on Tuesday after we find out Monday?" You know?
mhm,
And he's just like, and I'm like, "Yeah, breathe it out. But if it is what it is. So what are we doing?"
mm,
And it's just like I had a client of mine one day called me and she was like 5 years she had lost her daughter in a drunk driving accident.
mhm.
And she was miserable, upset, horrible. Of course, because I have children. Of course you are. And so through the whole conversations, we're talking. Then I said, what do you think was good out of that situation? Well, she cursed me out, hung up the phone like she was pissed. And then she
Mhm.
calls me like a week later to say that damn question would not leave my mind. And I realized I kept my daughter stuck in the tragedy instead of celebrating her life. And so now she actually goes
Mm.
to high schools and talks to them about drunk driving and so on and so forth. So her whole life has shifted out of the one question of what good can come out of losing your child? What good can come out? Right?
And such a daring question to ask. I
Yeah.
respect the cojones it takes to ask your well,
Straight
and
talk, no sugar attitude.
I love it. Who needs it? I don't need the
Yeah.
extra carbs and fat. So no, but really, I really want to acknowledge like that and I hope that your listeners understand what you just said, that you love your client enough
Yes.
to ask them a question they might be unwilling to face at the time. Like, you're not worried about, do they like you? You're not worried about,
Yeah.
do they approve of you? So this tells me a few things about you: that you're self-validating, you have your own self-approval, you have a high degree of self-love and self-esteem, because you're not looking for it in somebody else. And so you're willing to put yourself out there, like on the guillotine, to
Yeah.
be of service to somebody else and help them find their highest and greatest good.
Yeah.
I am turned on by it, Neena. Great job.
So good. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. But before I wrap up, because I don't want to let you go, because I'm loving this freaking call so much, but I do want to know really quick. So for those who are listening and they are stuck, right? Because let's be real. Sometimes we call it stuck, but it's just the unwillingness to move. It's the fear of that next thing. So what does it look like to work with you? What does it look like to work with your company?
I really appreciate you asking. We have three flagship, classes that we do. So, um, the big difference between what we do and what kind of like what's really common in the world of personal development or self mastery is we're very much focused on experiential learning. So let me take
Mm,
a step back for a moment. When somebody comes to us, it's because they want to change their outcomes in life.
mm-hmm.
Okay. If they want to change their outcome, so they want to increase their performance, they want to make more money, they want to grow their business, they want to, get out of their own way, whatever it is. When we're talking about changing our outcomes, ultimately what we're talking about is changing our behavior. Okay. So if we're changing our behavior is a derivative of our thinking. Our thinking is, this is science, 95% of our thinking is unconscious.
Right.
Right, Dr. Zaltman from Harvard was like the first to really popularize that and prove it. So, what we're really talking about then is making some dramatic shifts to our unconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, when in our company, when we use the term mindset, for us, it's really simple. It's tossed around a lot. But when we talk about mindset, we're talking about the mind, thinking, and set, meaning like when you set something, it's automatic. So, we all have an automatic way of thinking.
That's right.
Okay? So and the reality of this is from cognitive psychology. We know that the majority of that automated thinking is developed from 0 to about 7 or 8 years
7.
old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in cognitive psychology, they call it schemas. In our classes, we'll call it programs, just because it's easier for people to understand. But between 0 and 7 years old, we operate based on theta, at the theta brainwave. So in the same brainwave essentially as hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we say children are like a sponge. They learn so quickly, right? They have no firewall. They don't try to
Right.
rationalize anything. They literally just absorb what's going on in their environment. That's the benefit. The drawback, the downside of it, because there's a curse in every blessing and a blessing in every curse. The downside of it is that because they have no firewall, they're not able to rationalize some of the emotional experiences that they have, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mom and dad split up. I don't see dad anymore. Dad must not love me. I'm not lovable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that might be a story that they make up about it themselves. And so from 0 to about 7 or 8 years old, we create about 80 to 85% of what our overall neural programming is going to be. So if you're listening, hear that what that means is there's roughly a 7 or 8 year old that's in the driver's seat of your life
Mm-hmm.
85% of the time. And we wonder, why sometimes we act childish, especially when we get
Yeah.
triggered,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Chaos.
So yes, chaos, really. And we get attached. We have that volatility of going up and
So
down with
true.
life, right? We're on the roller coaster of life. So life is mastering us versus us mastering life when we operate from that. So if what we know is that the brain is an adaptation tool. So the more quote unquote pressure it's under, the faster it adapts, right? So in our classes, like when we're talking about changing the brain, what we're talking about is changing your neural pathways in your brain, or what we call what is called remyelination. So we're remyelinating the brain. The fastest way to do that, like there's lots of different modalities that can do that. There's like repetition based modalities like affirmations, and
Mhm.
you know we can do meditations, and there's several different modalities that can work, but the fastest is a real life experience. And so when people come through our classes, like there's no lectures, there's no taking notes. There is a series of experiences they go through.
Oh, wow.
And in those experiences, like even in our
Mhm.
online introductory class that's 3 days long, like there's a series, like and it's it can be games, it's small groups, it's playing, it's doing an exercise. But in those experiences,
That's
what's
good.
happening
I like
is
that. Mhm.
so we hold them. The facilitator we tee up a concept. We'll break out into an exercise. They experience the concept, and then we kind of hold up a mirror at the end and we go like, so how did you show up in this exercise? And what they start to discover is like, oh my God, I can see the parallels between like how I played that game, or how I was in that exercise, and how I'm showing up in my business, or how I'm showing up for my team, or how I'm showing up in my relationship. And sometimes, they discover the great things about themselves too. Like we're not there to try to make them wrong about anything.
Right,
But
right.
oftentimes what they also discover is like, oh, I can see how this served me back when I was a kid, but it's not serving me experience attached to it. The brain starts making that shift much more rapidly than it will through any sort of repetition. Motivation is, by definition, it's temporary.
Right,
Zig Ziglar said
right,
motivation is temporary like bathing. That's why you do it every day.
right.
So if we go to a motivational event, we stand on our chair, we beat our chest, the music plays loud, we swing lights around in the air,
Mhm.
and then by Wednesday we
Mhm.
pull into the garage and it all faded away.
Right.
So this is not that. This is real lasting change, and then we guarantee results. So that's integrative neural conditioning, is the process we take our clients through to change the way that their brain interprets the world around them, which changes their thinking, changes their behaviors, and ultimately changes their outcomes.
I freaking love that because it's the experiences that really do change us in our life. I love
Mhm.
that you're doing it that way because, a lot of these neural conferences or things that you go through, it is about writing or the exercises or whatever have you. But to experience it does change the game. I love that. I freaking love that. That's
Mhm.
freaking genius. Okay. So before I wrap up, because I know you're a busy dude, I do want to know. I already follow you because I follow you on YouTube, and I've been on your email for like 2 years now, and I read them because they're hilarious. Like you're a straight talker, so they're so funny to me. So just tell me, how do people connect with you? Like, how do they work with you? Find out more about this program. Get their life together. How do we do that?
Yeah, I would say the best place to start is we have a great free assessment at thepowercode.com. So at thepowercode.com, I have a video that explains what the power code is. It comes from, it's a combination of axiology, which is the study of values, teleology, the study of purpose, and neuroscience. And there's a great self-assessment that you can take there that helps you understand why you experience procrastination, self-doubt, imposter syndrome in some areas of your life. But there's other areas of our life where we don't experience any of that, where we're perfectly
Yeah.
disciplined, we have fulfillment, we have
Yeah.
alignment, clarity, certainty, confidence, these sorts of things. So there's a wonderful self-assessment there. We get a lot of raving reviews about it. You can download the self-assessment for free. There's a video that explains it all. And then after you download the self-assessment, there's a 2-hour master class that I do that will go deeper on that topic. We get reviews very often from people telling us that like they were, even guys who are like, I was in tears in that master class. Like that's how good it was. Like it's not like
So
some
good.
long-winded sales pitch. There's
Right.
real value in it. And at the end of that class, if you like what you've heard and you want result, I give you exactly what to do, how to do it, and all that. And all I say at the end is, if you want to do this faster, I can help you have a monumental, colossal breakthrough in your life and your business, 100% guaranteed, in 3 days or less. And if we fail, I'll pay you back double what you paid to attend. So
That's
we give a double your
amazing.
money back guarantee at the end of that. So that'd be the best place for somebody to really understand how we work with our clients.
That is so freaking awesome. Okay, so the power code it is. We got to go on there because I need to know why I can kill it on this side of the aisle, and then sometimes I just can't on, or something's in the way on this side of the aisle, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
every entrepreneur, leader, parent. That's just every person, right? So thank you
Absolutely.
so much for hanging out with me today on Straight Talk. This was so fun, and you're so good to talk to. So I appreciate that you're the same person on that email and on your videos that you are live. Thank you so much for chilling with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Neena.
This was awesome. Guys, thank you so much for following him. I'm going to make sure to list all the information below. Get your ass moving. Stop saying you're stuck and let's just move forward. I love this idea though. I've spoken to so many people. I've had over 700 podcast episodes, right? But I never heard about it being done in an experiential type of way. And I think
Mhm.
that to me, that already clicked. Like that is powerful and different. So guys, stop sitting on your laurels, get moving. Oh, and by the way, can you freaking hit the subscribe button? How many of you are watching all these views that I have and nobody's subscribing? Get your ass to click that button. I love you guys so much. This is Neena Perez, Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.